In the final session of PLF 2023, we discuss, is the Indian state designed to fulfill our strategic goals? We invite on stage Prafulla Ketkar, Editor, Organizer Weekly; Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies; Abhijit Majumdar, journalist, co-founder and editor-in-chief of earshot.in; and finally, contributing moderator Anand Ranganathan, professor at JNU, author and columnist.
I'm sorry, I thought the priest, Abhijit Iyer, is the moderator. No, thank you so much. And I think this is the final session. The instructions are very clear to not overrun. Otherwise, the bell magically transforms into a sword. But thank you so much to these three out here who are the real experts in their domains. Let me first ask, I think, Abhijit, the more genial Abhijit of the two. Let me ask the fitter Abhijit of the two. Who should I ask? Can you point?
I just want everybody to note fat shaming is happening out here. Highly bigoted fascist platform, fat shaming is happening.
Okay, so I cannot ask the fitter Abhijit. Can I ask the Bengali Abhijit of the two? Okay, so let me ask the proper 100% Bengali Abhijit, not the fake Bengali.
See, notions of racial purity. This is where fascism starts.
I'm as tongue-tied as Manmohan Singh. No, but Abhijit, the younger Abhijit, is that all right?
No, that's ageism.
What do I do? Okay, Abhijita, honestly, can you define, before we delve into the questions I'm going to ask the other two panelists, let's say 4 strategic interests that India should have or does have. Then we can go about discussing those.
Yeah, अरे 10 लिखा यार मैं. Because the Indian government doesn't yet spell out the strategic goals. As of now, I haven't found, I tried to research for this session, I couldn't find a set of strategic goals that the Indian government has set out. But so broadly, I would think something like being the world's 3rd largest economy by 27-28, second largest, overtaking the US by 2075, grow per capita from 2,500 currently to over $10,000 by 2047, be Atmanirbhar or self-sufficient in manufacturing, and to turn from importer to leading exporter, especially in defense, technology, gadgets, automobile, etc. To be world's leading research and innovation hub from biotech to gaming, to have huge economic military advantage over China at some point, to be the voice of the global south, to regain maritime superiority and diplomatic leadership in the Indian Ocean region, to further strengthen our ties with US, Europe, Middle East, Russia, to export India's greatest soft power, spirituality worldwide through yoga, Ayurveda, etc. And finally, the 10th is to exist as the sacred geography called Bharat, reclaim which was lost, and be the new world's guiding light for 1,000 years at least. So
these are the interests that you have chalked down, not the.
Yeah, I believe people in the establishment will agree with me. But my point is, these short-term economic goals would be probably easier to achieve.
So let me begin. Yeah. So thanks very much. I think you've given us the cue of what I can think of. Let's talk about. Let's narrow the 10 interests down to, let's say, 4, because then we'll have enough time to talk about those. One would be obviously defense and geopolitics. and we'll ask Abhijit that. Let me call it Abhijit Iyer that. Let me begin, and we can talk about science and other interests, and I can probably add something to that. Cultural one, we'll ask Prafulla. But let me start by pointing out a strategic interest, talking about the exact topic and asking the three of you, what is ailing or what might possibly ail in us fulfilling that? So the topic is the Indian state, by that I think it's meant the current Indian state or the state of the current Indian state. Is the Indian state designed to fulfill our strategic goals? So if we talk about clearly the first four goals you talked about, Dada, economic, is the current shape of our Indian state actually designed to fulfill what our economic goals are? Let me begin by you, Abhijit, and then go forward.
I want to ask the audience, how many of you have heard of an author called Ian Morris? None of you? I would highly recommend you all read his book. It's called Why Human Development Matters. And he'll show you that, human development, we think of it as, why is Abhijit talking about human development in terms of a strategic goal? Because, human development is a very complex process that involves a lot of things. You can't have human development unless you've protected the human from both internal aggression and external aggression, from terrorism and from invasion, from riots and from theft. You cannot have human development unless you have achieved a certain level of investment in human beings in terms of education, in terms of health, and all of that. Now, the problem in India is, and those 10 points which have been elucidated in various government statements, shows you how there is a serious problem of cranial rectal inversion syndrome generally in strategic thinking in India. We tend to confuse effect and cause. All right. How are you going to achieve? Let me just ask you, let me narrow it down to say something strategic, which is what is, say, India's so-called quote-unquote strategic goal in Asia. Well, very simply, if I put it to you, it's to see to it that Russia and China never get together. Divide and rule. What the British used to do was a wonderful thing. I've always supported divide and rule. The British were fantastic people. Jolly good chaps. We need to divide Russia and China. Yet, you find me one policy document that will ever state this clearly. Even when this was our common goal through the 50s and 60s and 70s with America, we actually made America enemies of the Americans in a sense, because we could not articulate this goal very clearly. And this comes for a certain reason. We are a third world country. What if I talked about human development being a symptom of your strategic goal? It is the end result of your strategic goal. All the strategies are things that go into making that, including physical security. What is your current ability to ideate a solution? Zero. We are a third world country. A third world country is not naked people on the streets, people starving, zero healthcare. No. It is zero investment in human beings, where people do not go into any great depth on any great subject, produce any great amount of thinking, or produce optimal results. Everything is suboptimal in a third world country. Definitionally.
Yeah, Abhijit, I agree with you on most things, but can I just add here that let's begin with, and many of the things that you mentioned are generic in nature, and I will ask you pointedly when I come to geopolitics and defense. Here, that's why I wanted to keep it very, very focused, because I'm talking purely of economic strategic interests. So For
economic
example,
strategic interest.
Yeah,
So let's
just economy.
Let me give you 2 economic
Yeah.
and 2 strategic.
What
okay?
are
Just-
we doing right? Are we equipped for it?
Economically, you're not equipped for it. Your biggest issue here is regulatory unpredictability and judicial unpredictability. Are you solving that? You're not. You know, and I know how much money we lose in investment and how much money gets lost internally because of it. Okay. Are we doing anything to sort it? No. Economically, energy is one of the most crucial elements of growth. We lose between 16 to 20 billion dollars a year. That is at least 4 Areva 2000 megawatt pressurized heavy water reactors that can be built every year, lost simply in energy theft. Are we doing anything about it? Zero. Why? Because it's all vote gainers. We do not have the human capacity to solve it. We do not have the ideational capacity to solve it. We do not have the willpower to solve it.
So let me rephrase it. What do you think should be one line statement of our economic strategic interests by 2040? One line.
I'll quote Deng Xiaoping. It doesn't matter if a cat's black or white as long as it catches mice.
Okay, that's, I mean, I would, ये तो Confucius वाला scene हो गया, समझ में नहीं आया क्या कहा, सुन के अच्छा लगा. But I think as far as I'm concerned, it would be to not have either a left-wing government who does left-wing economics, or more dangerously to have a right-wing government who does left-wing economics.
But Anand, let me ask you this. See, this is generic and this is dangerous. I'll tell you why. Why is something left-wing dangerous per se? I would posit that today with overpopulation, the value ascribed to land as a unit of production is very dangerous. I would actually advocate for the socialization of land so the cost of business can come down massively. Right? It's a very pragmatic way of looking at things. I don't think ideology and dogma are going to solve. We're way past ideology and dogma solving our problems. Yeah, but the problem is our right-wingers are not right-wingers, our left-wingers are not left-wingers.
Yes, but I think it's much easier to pigeonhole people, governments and policies in left and right when it comes to economics. So let's deal at least that aspect initially. There, can I bring Abhijit and ask him, when we know the goal, when we know, for example, I mean, nobody repeats a failed experiment in science, I mean, except fools. Why do we keep on repeating failed experiments in politics or governance? I'm talking here of when we clearly know that governments cannot run businesses, when we know that public sector units per se cannot make the profits that private sector units can, that they are loss-making, corrupt enterprises. When we know what we need to do exactly to be an economic powerhouse by in the next 15 years, why is a right-wing government failing in those? It's a very pointed question.
I think it's too early to say that it has failed. In fact, I think that silently they have, maybe not at the pace at which we expect them, but they have put in place quite a few economics, reforms, structures, etc. We've seen, we are now beginning to see the benefits of having that entire Jan Dhan drive, financial inclusion, bringing millions of people into the fold, or several schemes, even demonetization, which I know you have been a very vocal critic of, but I don't think our digital payments would have taken off as robustly as we have it now if there were no demonetization and that shock, that whole black swan event, if you may want to call it. But so economically, I think things have started, things are falling into place. There have been this insolvency and bankruptcy code, several reforms, RERA, etc. Even Ujjwala, in a sense, it actually increases productivity of an entire rural, semi-urban female population. So things have happened. It's good things have happened, and it will take some time for us to see the results. My point is not that. It's not just short term, because जब तक मोदी रहेगा, reforms होगा, this, that, उसके बाद we don't know what will happen. A nation can't live like that. There has to be coherent, policy, unbroken policy for many, many, many decades for us to get ahead. And for that, Anand, it is very important, I feel, for us to know who we are. See, I'll very quickly give you an example of, let's talk about the cheetah and the snail. Two extremes in terms of being the fastest and slowest creatures. But you know what? Both of them live in the wild, live a life up to, say, 10 years or so. Cheetah is a magnificent predator, but even the snail can be a very efficient predator. It sort of lulls its prey into thinking its stillness, and then it, catches it and stuff like that. So, but imagine if the cheetah one day, and by the way, both are also praised. The cheetah is preyed upon by lions, hyenas, etc. in the wild, and the snail, birds, to squirrels, to everybody preys on the snail. Now, for a moment, if the cheetah thinks that if only I had a shell on my back, wouldn't it be lovely? And if the snail, to in its wish to run faster, gives this shell to the cheetah, both will die within a couple of days in the jungle. The whole point of this is that every organism and every civilization must know who they are. They must get in touch with who they are intrinsically. Bharat, because of 1,000 years of invasions, colonial occupation, genocides, etc., and tremendously cunning policy by people who ruled us, we have forgotten who we are. We have forgotten, we don't even want to look at history. Why are we talking about the past? So if that doesn't change, then all these strategic goals will be limited to a 10 to 20 year period. That software has to somewhere change. We have to put that, this virus out. And mainly, I would say, education and legislation, constitution.
So,
these things are very
before I come to Prafull and ask him point blank questions, just couple of things. What you talked about, the example of cheetah and the snail. Essentially, in one sense, philosophically, you're talking about, and that's another discussion altogether, you're talking of having faith in conservatism. But the world doesn't work like that. If the snail doesn't adapt to an environment which is Darwinian in full and you need to speed up, the snail would die. And if the cheetah is exposed to the elements and doesn't have that kavach that the snail has, cheetah would die. So we need to constantly adapt to changing environments. We cannot resort to or take recourse in conservatism. So that's a philosophical thing. But can I just say, I have a very difficult, almost impossible job, because what I'm trying to do out here is to disentangle the various domains that by virtue of the modern world are completely entangled. Like what Dada said, his last statement was, when you talk of economic interests, you cannot exclude health, education, medicine. So, but I want to do that because I want to come to them one by one. Otherwise, I can say that, look, and you talked about energy. I can say, in order for us to be economic superpower, we need to be an energy superpower. We need to be, health, education. So that way everything is connected. Then the whole debate ends in like 2 minutes. But I want to disentangle it. First, tackle just economic interest. So there, Prafulla, can I just ask you, do you think over and above the entanglement or intertwining of 7 or 8 strategic things that everyone will do, health, education, do you think there is 1 or 2 absolutely specific thing in finance and economics that we must achieve in the next 10, 15 years in order for us to be a global superpower in economics?
See, before, coming to your pointed question, the entire PLF edition is about strategic autonomy. And the question that we are dealing with is Indian state and strategic goals. The question, is the Indian state designed to fulfill the strategic goals? And then all of you are agreeing that there is no clarity of strategic goals. Why is it so? And I will pick up from where Abhijit has left. Simply because this Indian state is a colonial construct nurtured by the Congress, run by the communists. And therefore, we are not clear who we are. And therefore, obviously, we are not clear what our strategic goals are.
Nurtured by the Congress and run by the
Communists.
Modi is a communist.
This has been for last, the change is there. But when you are asking about why the politics and governance tend to be populist, then structurally, this state is essentially colonial, based on Protestant ethics, then nurtured by Congress. So, what was Bharat? The idea of Bharat was the decentralized Janapadas, or the state or models of governance, and unified nationhood. British exactly reversed that process. They centralized the state to such an extent that we feel that without socialism we can't work. So, I personally feel that working on our traditional cluster system to give impetus to the real manufacturing strength of India. And today is Vishwakarma Jayanti, and I will take opportunity to not because government has launched certain scheme, because I firmly believe, and I've visited such places. You go to Tirupur, you go to Morbi, you go to the places where we are really creating wealth, irrespective of whether state is capitalist or socialist. These are the people where you will find the minimum sort of inequalities. There is a more cooperative way of sharing resources, and there is a better way of adapting what you talked about, the adapting. The same people of Tirupur who were functioning under the socialist regimes now adapted to the new export systems with the same cooperative approach. Somebody, I saw president of a Tirupur Textile Association having BMW in front of him, his house, and he said, "Oh, this is not mine. This is our cooperative societies. Basically, we have around 500 units here. Whoever wants to, pick up his client, foreign client from Coimbatore or Chennai, this car will go. They just have to book it." Morbi, highest per capita income. Everybody, no single Sarkari job in Morbi. No family goes into Sarkari job. But they create wealth. Now I know, because you would say, this is a Gandhian Gram Swaraj. I'm not talking about Gram Swaraj.
I'm saying you're absolutely right. They create wealth and then they pay taxes. And then the government collects that wealth and fritters it. So we are still under the socialist foot. That's the issue. No, you have pockets of great wealth being produced through capitalist societies. But ultimately, if the top doesn't change, you're absolutely right when you said, this nation has come to believe that socialism is our panacea. How do you change that? And
no, but as an alternative also, when you think, whether in terms of strategic goals he enumerated, or the alternatives that you think in terms of market, again we are going against our chitti. We are not talking about the real Indian wealth creation models and Indian strategic goals. We want to be either US or China. That is not the option. What Vivekananda thought, or Sri Aurobindo thought, they had a dream about, I would like to take this autonomy discussion to the pinpointed strategic goals on, if we are saying, like for example, what was that thinker, Abhijit? Yan Shigong. Ancient Chinese thought, modern Chinese power. He was one of the key security advisors in earlier Xi Jinping regime. He was in Peking University. In 95, he started this project. He took out 7 Chinese dynasties, their treatises, and recontextualize that. Many people think that it was just Deng Xiaoping. It was not just Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping, of course, did it structurally and economically. But the worldview of China actually was defined by this international relations scholar, and he said we can't see world from the American prism. Similarly, if we really want to sell our economic model, which is more inclusive, more wealth creation, more environment friendly, then we need to look at our traditional clusters and learn from them, nurture them, and then that Atmanirbharta approach cannot be just state-centric approach. It has to be more community and society-centric.
Abhijit, so I'd like you to come in here. Are we stuck between past and pasta?
We're stuck between past and pasta in worse ways that you can imagine. You know, who told you communism and socialism are foreign imports? Who told you? The world's first communist was an Indian emperor called Ashoka. He started something called the My Baap state, which is the state is your father, the state is your mother, the state will provide you with everything. It will provide you nappies for your child, it will provide you education for your child, it will provide you old age home. You don't believe me? Go read any one of his edicts. Devanam Piya Piyadasi, the beloved of the gods, the father of his people. Boss, my mother doesn't recollect knowing you. How the hell are you my father? But you go through all his edicts all across 3 million square kilometers of India, he claims to be everybody's daddy. He used to use all state funds to subsidize all kinds of weird things. Who do you think started Indian Tourism Development Corporation? Ashoka. I'm not kidding you. He used to set up all these caravanserai kind of things where travelers could sit and rest. Why? What is your job using taxpayer money to set up hotels for people to stay? He used to do it. And export religion. Why do you want to do this? So, socialism is born and brought up in India. You see, pasta itself did not originate in Italy. Semia, which you would have had it for lunch or whatever, is invented in Tamil Nadu and it went from here to Italy. So, you know, this historical connection to your past itself is deeply fraught.
Yeah, but
because understand, Sitaram Yechuri is mentally more Indian than you are. Or you. And you're in the RSS.
no, but before I come to the next goal, I really want to end it on, I know consensus is a bit difficult. But to be honest, I think what is the kind of state, economic state that we desire at the end of the day? What is our strategy? The strategy is to become an economic powerhouse. We can't do it with socialism. We are doing it right now with socialism. BJP is as much a freebie giving and generating party as Aam Aadmi Party. Naam kharab hota hai Kejriwal ka, hona bhi chahiye. But everyone else is in the same boat. And I'll tell you, Congress won the Himachal Pradesh elections by resorting to the old pension scheme, which they themselves had junked, and formulated the new pension scheme. But they figured out that they are going to win elections by junking the old new pension scheme. And lo and behold, Chhattisgarh did it, Punjab did it. In Maharashtra, 15 lakh people went on a strike demanding reversion to old pension scheme. This socialism is a disease we cannot get rid of. We aren't getting rid of. And I am for welfare state. But I'm at pains to tell people welfare state is possible only in a capitalist state. People don't seem to realize it. You can't run a welfare state on socialism. So is there a solution you think we will get? One line solution, then I want to move on to the next one.
Shall I give you a one line solution?
Please.
Set a specific goal. And it isn't a $5 trillion economy. Okay, that is not a specific goal, that's a generic goal. The specific goal is by 2040, you want India's per capita income to be, not on PPP terms, on nominal terms, to be $35,000 per capita. Everything works backward from there. Everything, including your education policy.
Nahi
It does.
chalega.
It does. When you have time, I'll sit and explain it to you. But it is the most specific. For me, it is not what does, just read out one thing on your list again. To be what? A diplomatic what?
No. Regain the superiority in Indian
Mike.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means in strategic studies. I don't know what it means in English.
Let me come to that. But the
But
point is, look, what
the
you
point
said
is very simple.
What you said is
You have to talk in tangibles. In India, we tend to abstract a lot.
This is not a tangible at all.
It is very much a tangible.
I can-
$35,000 per capita per individual is a total tangible.
Yeah, but you see
What is not a tangible
politicians will
is
say.
diplomatic leadership.
Abhijit, what politicians will say, as they say, that this fellow keeps on deriding public sector units. Aren't there Navratnas? Aren't they making profits? Aren't SBI making profits?
But is that adding to your per capita income?
They will say it is.
It is not.
The question I'm saying is, when are we going to junk socialism, or are we going to?
But socialism isn't your problem.
It is. What
No,
else
it
is?
isn't. It isn't. It is bad ideation of, first of all, it is bad diagnosis. We're terrible doctors. We have got the diagnosis wrong. There is a reason, I bet you, if there was a proper Indian Medical Association that actually judged medical malpractice. Tell me how many of you in this room have been misdiagnosed by your doctors in India?
Guessing.
Yes. No. This is the problem. Misdiagnosis leads to medication. Socialism is not your problem.
Prafulla, is there an idea? Will there be an ideological intervention? Let me be very point blank, because we're looking at BJP at least till 2049. Is that what Amit Shah had said? So there would be an umbrella of RSS behind it, the thrust behind it. If India is to succeed, let's be very brutally honest, then RSS has to be the bulwark. Otherwise, it won't succeed. Are we looking at a change in the RSS thinking as far as economics is concerned? How to push India forward?
I'm not a RSS spokesperson, so disclaimer. But what I understand is there is always a RSS thinking when it comes to the economic model, and that's why I'm confidently telling you that there are around 40 clusters, and post COVID, when this Atmanirbhar model had come up, this cluster system has played a critical role. If we really want to have, we need to get out of this binary of either socialism or capitalism. We have our own model of wealth creation, which is community based. Whether it is a caste category or regional category, I'm not going into it right now. But we have to reinvent it for the present time and as for the present technology. Both. I'm not denying technology. I'm not denying that earlier models were more birth-based, and that's why problematic. Now we need to reinvent that skilling model also, and that usage of modern technology also. There, if the resource, community and technology comes together, then wealth creation is possible. And as I am saying, irrespective of socialist policies or capitalist policies or market policies, if something is surviving in India, are those Swadeshi models. And they are ultimately the solution. Can we multiply them to a large extent? Muradabad has been Muradabad. Tirupur has been Tirupur. Nehru or Modi, they are doing their things. And nobody could stop that. In fact, they reinvented themselves when the globalization came. Now Atmanirbharta, what it is happening actually is, those old clusters are being revived and new clusters are created as per the technological innovations.
Let me add something to that, because you mentioned a word that has a very immediate scientific, almost Darwinian parlance. You talked about survival. Now, in socialism, people survive. In capitalism, people thrive. India will survive, we know it. Without any food on the table, with famines galore, we survived the 60s. Borlaug helped us, tide over that awful time when we were at the mercy of American wheat. We survived. The question is not of survival. Nations survive. Venezuela will survive. North Korea is surviving. This fellow went and danced in North Korea. The question is of thriving. We don't have much time. You want to talk about, I'm not talking of India in 2225 or 200 years from now. I'm talking of India 20 years from now. I'm talking of a scientist who laid out something called Vision 2020 in 2000, Dr. Kalam, and said, I am confident India would be a first world developed country by 2020. Where are we now? So someone like Dr. Kalam got it wrong. Did he want to be wrong? Absolutely not. So why was he wrong? Because we made him wrong. Our politicians made him wrong. So there was a strategic goal. He defined 2020. Abhijit said he defined it. He defined it by so many things. We let him down.
Just a moment. Yes, I completely agree. Incidentally, I had one conversation with Dr. Kalam on this. When his India 2020 got translated in Marathi, my friend has translated it, and we went there to present him a copy. And I point blank asked him this question. Dr. Kalam, do you really believe that these numbers and this material achievement is going to establish India really as a developed country? He looked at me and he said, when do you think India was really a developed country? I was clueless, means the direction of the question. And he said, India was truly developed when thousands of students from all over the world used to come to Nalanda and Takshashila. This is just a foundation. Ultimately, the solution lies there. And there, the human development aspect is very, very important. Our academic institutions, our, in our strategic goals, what do we want to do? Oh, some foreign courses. Oh, some foreign models. Oh, some kind of ratification from foreign agencies of number this, number that. Who was giving, Vikramshila or Takshashila or Nalanda, but still students used to come there. So I think we need to redefine where yesterday we had this in knowledge system session. When we are talking about our strategic goals, we need to redefine what we want to be on our own terms.
Yes, and let me move on to the next one. You want something to say?
I just wanted to ask Prafulla, because he's of all of us on the stage here, Prafulla is closest to the ruling dispensation. And
he said, "यार बार-बार ये मत कहा करो, बड़ी मार पड़ती है मैं criticize
करके." He can keep denying, but I'm just.
People like you might have got more interviews from the ruling establishment than me.
Interviews mean nothing. Interactions mean more. But what I'm asking you is, taking from what you just said, that education, we need to sort of have our own education. The Education Act of 1835 still alive and kicking in India. The English Education Act, the Modi government, I feel, has been the slowest in education. National education policy has come, but it all smells fine. But to roll it out, it will take they have given themselves 20-25 years. The national curriculum framework, which is actually going to be the syllabus change, has not yet been done. In 9 years, it has not been done. So,
no, we're just waiting for a majority government. As soon as that happens, no. I want to move on to the next one, where I want your expert opinion, because I think that's important. When we talk of strategy, I'm at pains to define it again. Otherwise, it will become a lovely fireside chat where, things are connected. I mean, education, economics, everything's important. And I come to the second point by bringing in Dr. Kalam again. I think where he got it absolutely right was in 1992. Absolutely visionary. And the Kalam, he made an index. He said, in 1992 or 93, Abhijit would know the exact dates, he said 70% of our defense equipment is imported, 30% is indigenous. I want by 2020 it to be flipped, 70% to be indigenous and 30% to be imported. And believe it or not, in 2021, it is exactly that. 69% is indigenous and 31% is... So, I know he's itching.
Who told you all this crap?
If it's not true, then you can...
It
counter
remains
that.
the same as it was then.
This is Narendra Modi's famous speech
Okay.
on this. that he's-
99% of your air force
And
is
today is his
imported.
birthday. Please don't criticize him. But no, so I will stick to what the Prime Minister said talking about this. The fact of the matter is, the most strategic interest that one can ever think of, where every other strategic interest is dependent on, is defense security. I mean, we've seen how India crumbled when we were weak in defense, education, everything went just crumbled and we returned to dust. What is our strategic security? And I say it at the backdrop of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Abhijit, where would you at least agree that the world has acknowledged that we have remained as independent as we were never when it came to world conflicts, and we were tugged and pushed by one superpower or the other? Here we've held our ground. Do you think we are now much more surer about what we want as far as defense and our strategic interest in defense is concerned? I don't want to talk about 20 years from now. It's really boring. I want to talk about the next 10 years. And then
No.
I'll move to Abhijit and then to...
No, you know why? Because we keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Okay, this is like, there's a famous story of King Canute, who all his courtiers would tell him, if you tell the water to stop, the water will stop. And so he took all his courtiers to the beach and he ordered the water to stop. It did not stop. Just because you issue a fiat saying this is all on the not import list, doesn't mean suddenly you're going to have an ecosystem that will sprout here that will be totally indigenous. Okay? Production is a very, very complicated thing. There is a reason Russia produces low quality weapons. There is a reason France produces high quality weapons. Why? The Russian economy and education system support a certain kind of soldier with a certain kind of education, with a certain kind of independent tactical thinking ability. They do not function independently. Therefore, they need a certain kind of weapon. The French or OECD country would do this completely differently. When you're spending $40,000 per semester on a kid's education, you're teaching them to think independently. You're not teaching him to be a factory floor worker at $10,000. You're teaching him to be a factory manager at $40,000. He can't listen to orders. He has to problem solve himself. You then develop, and this is the average amount you're investing in somebody. So what happens is, now you don't think education matters in defense, but the quality of the defense equipment you produce is intrinsically linked to your education system precisely because of this. Now, even at $10,000 per capita income, a Russian kid has greater ability than you, who spend how much? $2,000 per capita on education. Less. To make a factory floor workforce, which is to say have a quantity-based defense system where you accept massive casualties like the Russians are in Ukraine, you still need to spend $10,000 per capita on a kid's education. Indian state spends $40 billion. At $10,000 per capita, do you know what the outlay for education needs to be? $600 billion. Your shortfall is $560 billion. Paisa kahan se aa raha hai, bhai?
So what you're saying is quite correct. As I said,
It is a
everything
simple ways
intertwined.
and means calculation.
Education is linked to defense security.
And you can't. And this was the mistake that Dr. Kalam made. He took a very narrow approach. It wasn't a I hate that word intersectional because it's so woke, but say an interdisciplinary approach where you're looking at different things affecting things in different ways. Integrated approach, yes. So, you just can't be, everything is linked to everything else.
Yes, I understand that. I said that at the outset. how shall I redefine it? Because I think we keep on unearthing the same correct analysis that everything is connected. But I don't want to limit ourselves to that. So, Prafulla, can I ask you before I come to Abhijit now? By our defense and security strategic interests, let's put it very bluntly, we need to go back to the true non-aligned, not the sham non-aligned that we were. Do you think India has realized that, and do you think India should be truly non-aligned, not the sham pseudo non-aligned that we were?
See, we always believed, people got in this between the monotheism and polytheism. We were always actually omnitheism. So I believe we are not non-aligned, we are all aligned. So now we are making alignments on our terms as per the requirement of the other countries. So if you say, for example, BIMSTEC kind of model, we knew that SARC is not working. We knew that we cannot make ASEAN, whatever we call it, it is a backyard of China.
A very important point, actually.
So we invented our own model of Indian Rim region, and then their Indian Ocean policy, comes in the picture, and that's entire. Wherever China went with debt trap, we went with constructive solutions, especially in the neighborhood in the Indian Ocean. Now, Vietnam, for example, or for that matter, of course, when it comes to deliveries in some strategic assets, or we are really bad, but still compared to China, we are better trusted. Now we are developing, or for example, what we did with the West Asian countries. First time we de-hyphenated Indian domestic politics from our foreign policy objectives. We never interacted either with Palestine or Israel or other West Asian countries by keeping Muslim considerations in mind. Now that was a clear shift. I think we need to have recalibrate this all aligned policy now with our civilizational objectives.
Prafulla, very urgently, because the danger of all alignment is that if you're straddling two stools, you may very quickly fall in between them. Let me give you an example. Yes, when Modi came to power, people said, look, is Islamophobe and Muslim countries is not going to be very friendly with that. And even the detractors have admitted that what has happened is totally the opposite, which I would say is all alignment, having friendly relations with Israel and at the same time with Saudi Arabia and everything. But is that really for our national interest when it comes to other policies? That is what I mean. And I don't want to bring Nupur in because that's political or whatever it may be, social, cultural, you may call it, that we cow down to a country with a population of 1.5 million because of this all alignment, you can say. But going forward, purely for defense interests, are we of the opinion that we want to be a sole 20 years from now superpower, or 10 years from now aligned with a lot of major powers? So when you say we are all aligned, in the what has our stand been for the Russia-Ukraine war? Are we aligned with Russia? Are we aligned with US? People might not like our stand. I'm sure Americans don't like it. They can't do much about it right now, but they've remembered it. So is all alignment always a good policy is the question.
If you calibrate your options right, because US economy is not doing that well, US model is surely failing. The kind of GDP to debt ratio, the policies of de-dollarization, I don't know how far the BRICS thing will go ahead. But American economy is going for toss for sure. And China is definitely not accepted as an alternative. So in next 15-20 years, if you're asking me, I'm seriously seeing India as a major power. But I have a serious problem with this concept of superpower status itself. because it is a highly Americanized concept of manipulating international legal systems and institutions to further your interest,
That their interests.
and that is not India's. Neither India's nature doesn't fit into India's civilizational strategic goals.
So, okay, so you said something very important. To be a superpower, what I say, at all costs, America has been a superpower at all costs, right? At the cost of destruction of a lot of countries, even continents. But they managed to be superpower. Self-destruction, but for a country that has $70,000 per capita income, that is in the best position to reinvent itself, that had the worst financial crisis for 70 years in 2007 and came out of it. I wouldn't say America is dead, to be honest. But here I want to come to Abhijit Jha. Are you writing off America? A, and B, are you for this all alignment?
See, despite that per capita income thing, we should not forget that the GDP debt ratio now is 136, 137%. Yeah.
Japan's is higher. Japan's is higher.
So American, I'm not saying America is failing. I'm saying American model is failing. That's why they have to go into the state interventionist strategy. If you are so pro-America and pro-capitalist, why Biden kind of model? Or why Obamacare?
Yeah, no, Anand, how can you write off a power like America, especially now? I mean, you can say that it's sort of waning, its influence could be waning, but it will take for the train to stop, even when you apply your brakes standing, will take a very, very long time. But see, this whole idea of all alignment that Prafulla is talking about, it doesn't come from the Nehruvian idealist kind of thing. It's purely pragmatist. He is talking about we will be aligned with whoever suits our interest. And that has to be evaluated at that point of time. We can't, it's not like sex on the promise of marriage scenario. It is, or at that point of time, if there are 5, BRICS and Quad and whatever that suits us, then we cannot promise somebody that we will be like friends forever and all that. It will entirely depend on our.
I want to bring in Abhijit, the other Abhijit here. Are you for being superpower at all costs?
See, my definition of a superpower is very different from most people's definition of a superpower. Right? Look at it culturally. Do you know who the second biggest investor in America is? No. Also, this country happens to be a tiny country. It has the highest agricultural productivity anywhere on earth. It has, no. Surprisingly, no. It also has zero security issues. It hasn't fought a war or external intervention in over 100, 150 years.
Such a country
Not 150,
exists.
but about 70 years. Holland. Now, why would I want to become a superpower? Essentially paint a target on my bum and say, please hit me here. Do I want to? I don't. Why would I want to spend money on useless external interventions when I would much rather spend that money eating foie gras and caviar at home? You understand? Why would I unnecessarily go around with all these vainglorious... I don't care tomorrow if somebody is speaking my language in English.
Fair enough.
So,
Americans
again,
have thought, so according to you, Holland is a superpower.
According to me, it is.
Fair enough. Fair
Right.
enough. I mean, that's a very viable, very logical, rational definition of a superpower.
It is.
Prosperity, without resorting to becoming the big daddy of the world.
And allowing other people to die and go bankrupt in order to fund your wealth.
Right.
See, I don't want to be the idiot who has my kids killed. But if I want to volunteer your kids so that I become richer, I'm very happy to send your kids to their deaths. That is for me a superpower. Thank you very much.
Right. So I think before we have 5 minutes, I want to take in some questions, but unfortunately,
Interestingly, this book that I was referring to, the Chinese thing, he has also refuted the concept of superpower. And he said, if China rises, the peaceful rise of China on the ancient principle, what he calls is the righteous power. Now, again, means we can discuss.
but
and
you
then-
know,
no, it doesn't go.
but
together.
you see, Prafulla, I mean, the question is that a Q&A, yes. I mean, before that, but when we talk of if Holland is a superpower, then Liechtenstein is also a superpower.
Liechtenstein is an even bigger superpower because they have all your black money accounts. They're the one people who have refused to sign all the American deals on banking transparency.
So then Gurgaon is also a superpower.
So the government can pick anybody. They can open any account they want. You see,
he's a closet Rahul Gandhi supporter. He wants the breakup of India into these pockets of superpower pockets. But okay, so we have a time for. I'm sorry, we've completely. Just one question. Okay. Yes. 2 questions. All right.
Actually, if the questions are restricted to just very quick questions and
Very
not
quick.
an elaborate discussion, then
And quick answer.
Quick questions. Only questions, no answers.
Hello, I'm Naveen. This question is to the panel. See now, when we are looking at the outcome, when the COVID, everybody said that India is in a sweet spot. We'll get all the project, China +1 strategy, everything. But when you actually look into the thing, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, they are getting the projects. And areas where everybody talks about demographic dividend. But if you are not going to get an opportunity and create employment, it can become a demographic curse. So I just want to say, what are the 3 things which we should do rapidly so that we can make use of the opportunity which is there?
Let me fractionate your question and into 5 fractions and ask just one of those, which is, do you believe in this demographic dividend thing strategically? So it's not going to be a curse, demographic curse.
No, I mean, we have a huge workforce. So did China at one point of time. They made the best of it. They, Chinese have been all over the world.
You need to read a 1975 report by Henry Kissinger on India's population policy for that.
Yes, we talked about that.
It is basically if we had at one point of time, irrespective of technology, if we had a world 25% of share in world GDP and we were export oriented, one of the key reasons was, though it was handmade, though it was rural centric, we were export oriented thanks to our population strength. That time also we were 15-16% of the world population. So I don't think we should afraid of this. What we need to do is we need to plan our natural resources, our technological innovations, and our human development, our population, quality of population. These 3 factors very judicious.
No, I think Modi planned it very judiciously with the farm reforms because 44% of our ready labor force of 550 million people is involved in agriculture. And these farm reforms would have completely catapulted our economy to a middle income one in 10-15 years, but he had to repeal them. So, so-called demographic dividend that we would have got with a flexible
these
economy.
numbers are problematic thing, Anand. And that problem comes with the concept of citizen itself.
One last question. Anybody?
Nobody wants to ask a question.
Nobody wants to
Okay,
ask a
nobody
question.
wants. Okay, national anthem. Everybody stand up. Yes, young man, come sing national anthem.
You really have a question. What is it? Eating pasta is superpower. No.
I agree. It is. National anthem, national anthem.